All right, welcome to the deep dive. Today we are really going deep. We're talking about the architecture of your own mind.
Yeah, and not just in some abstract theoretical way.
Exactly. We're taking this incredibly intricate blueprint, your blueprint, and running it through our synthesis engine to see, how these internal systems and philosophies actually work.
And we are diving into a really personalized analysis here. We're exploring the detailed reflections, the manifestos, the guiding frameworks of what you treat not just as internal voices, but as a fully functioning dynamic crew, your 10 distinct subpersonalities.
The sources we're working with are just remarkable. I mean, we have personal philosophical manifestos, deep psychological mappings, even organizational frameworks. There's a restaurant analogy in there, a structured plan for ethical consistency. It's the whole 9 yards.
And it allows us to view this idea of self-complexity not as a flaw, not as fragmentation, but as the source material puts it so well, as a gloriously dynamic life.
A life that demands some pretty deep understanding.
For sure. And the real power here, I think, is in the synthesis. It bridges these modern psychological models like internal family systems or IFS with these ancient wisdom traditions like the Sephirot from Kabbalah. What we end up with is this multi-layered functional map of your entire internal landscape. It's like we're looking at your mind as a meticulously designed machine.
And our mission for you listening is not just to, list off these parts. It's to synthesize the tension between them, the synergy.
Yeah.
We want to give you a high-impact shortcut, focusing on the core philosophy of each crew member.
And then show the really surprising, complex connections that let these 10 distinct voices operate as a truly cohesive system.
So let's start at the beginning.
Okay, so the foundational concept here is multiplicity. And you mentioned it. It's central to internal family systems, IFS, which basically says your mind isn't this single monolithic thing.
No, it's made up of parts.
It's made up of distinct parts. And each one has its own perspective, its own emotional history, and a role it plays in protecting the whole self.
And your system takes that and just formalizes it. It's a literal internal crew. So in IFS terms, these parts usually fall into 3 major camps. First, you have the exiles.
Right. The exiles are the ones holding the deepest wounds, the pain, the shame from the past. They're often, they feel isolated, locked away.
Then you have the managers. These are the proactive protectors. They're trying to keep everything orderly, safe, socially acceptable.
So this is your inner critic, your perfectionist.
The people pleaser, the strategic planner. Their main job is to keep those exiles from surfacing by just tightly managing everything you do.
But sometimes that pain breaks through, and that's when the firefighters leap into action.
The reactive protectors.
Exactly. They rely on these immediate, often impulsive or numbing behaviors. Anything to just extinguish the emotional fire.
So we're talking about things like addiction, rage, dissociation.
Like anything to get rid of the discomfort quickly, no matter what the long-term cost is.
Now, what's so fascinating about your architecture and where it sort of diverges from a purely clinical IFS model is the proactive tilt. So while traditional IFS focuses heavily on accessing the capital S self, that core of wisdom with the 8 C's, calm, clarity, curiosity, and so on, your system seems to be oriented toward the future.
It's not just about healing past burdens. It's, as you said, profoundly proactive and creative. The synthesis of the sources suggests the system uses that healing process. It accesses that self-energy and then immediately funnels it into building something new.
Right. The focus is always on expression, structure, storytelling, and meaning-making for the present and future.
So you could summarize the difference pretty simply. Healing clears the wreckage, sure, but this internal crew of yours, they immediately start drawing up new blueprints. They're focused on maximizing output, not just minimizing pain.
And to make this crew feel less abstract, you use the ship metaphor. It's simple and effective. The body, your life, it's the vessel. And each subpersonality is an essential crew member steering you through the world.
Let's quickly run through the roles just to ground ourselves. You have the anchors and strategists first, Vanek, who is the captain, all about stable leadership, balance.
Then Val, the tactician. She's focused on efficiency, strategic purpose.
And Devin, the navigator. He's managing risk, making sure everything is consistent.
Okay, then you have the more fluid creative parts. Addie, the scout. Always chasing exploration, new experiences.
Mac, the pilot, he's the wordsmith, all about action and quick improvisation.
And Tommy, the engineer, the imaginative world builder, the tinkerer.
And then finally the stabilizers, the meaning makers. Tira, the advisor, who always pauses to ask why.
Kenny, the quartermaster, who governs organization and the ethical infrastructure.
Liz, the morale officer, reflecting that drive for strategic power and fulfillment. And Kelly the healer, who's all about emotional well-being and connection.
Okay, that's a lot of crew members. They need a system to coordinate. And that's where the sources bring in this brilliant functional map, the kitchen analogy, the restaurant.
This is so good because it immediately shows you how they all collaborate to produce a tangible output, which, in this analogy, is the menu of your creative and emotional life.
So in this restaurant, Val is the executive chef. She's the visionary, right? Setting the highest standards, protecting the core identity and quality of the whole operation.
Absolutely. If Val's not happy, the whole kitchen refocuses. But she can't do it alone. Her essential partner is Devin, who acts as the sous chef, the stabilizer.
So he's the one who grounds her big vision. He makes it practical, ensures consistency, quality control.
Exactly. If Val is the ambitious idea, Devin is the calm, practical hand making sure the execution is reliable, honest. And that tension right there between the visionary ambition and the meticulous precision, that's what drives the quality.
Then, outside the heat of the kitchen, you have Kelly as the hostess, the welcomer.
Her role is so critical. She sets the emotional tone. She's the guardian of safe entry into your inner world, creating that sense of belonging. She's the face of your internal hospitality.
And I love this one. Mac is the bartender, the intuitive connector.
It's perfect for him. He's observant, he's reading the external vibe, improvising these customized connections with people. He's the social expert who makes sure the system is getting recognized or, providing some kind of relief based on what's needed in the moment.
Then we have the unsung heroes.
Yeah.
Kenny is the dishwasher, the unseen guardian.
Right. He's maintaining the entire infrastructure, the order, the integrity, all behind the scenes. He symbolizes those diligent, unacknowledged parts that stop the whole system from just collapsing into logistical or ethical chaos.
And to round out the kitchen staff, there's Tommy. He's the expediter, the instinctive creator.
Yeah, he's not about consistency. He's the one producing the unique, soulful dishes. The brilliant one-offs. He prioritizes authentic expression and meaning over just sticking to the menu.
He provides that spontaneous creativity that stops Devin's consistency from becoming, stagnant.
Precisely. And what's amazing is how the sources then connect all of this to K-pop groups.
Which seems like such a leap at first. But it's actually an incredibly insightful lens for understanding how this internal complexity gets packaged for the external world.
It really is. K-pop groups are built on this calculated blend of archetypes, the leader, the visual, the rapper, to guarantee this broad global appeal to cover a huge emotional range. And your internal system does something very similar to balance its image for the outside world.
Okay, so let's look at that mapping. Bannock is the leader, but he's also the visual.
Right. His external appeal is that calm charisma, that effortless stability. He naturally becomes the center of the external image, setting that trustworthy, dependable tone.
Then Devin is channeled into the mysterious one, the classic bad boy archetype.
And his public appeal comes from that stoic, enigmatic intensity. He's magnetic because he implies depth. He's the brooding heart that people feel compelled to try and understand.
Mac is perfectly cast as the goofy one, the rapper, the comic relief.
And he's so essential. His appeal is his humor, his playfulness, his unfiltered realness. He disarms tension and connects with an audience that values authenticity over some kind of polished perfection.
And then the powerhouse, Liz, the vocal queen.
The high-performance machine. Her whole persona is about total mastery, strength, intensity. She is the part of the system that demands external recognition through just jaw-dropping achievement.
And finally, Tira. She's also a mysterious one, but in a different way.
Yes, not the bad boy. She's the quiet wisdom, the spiritual depth. Her enigmatic quality evokes curiosity and respect. She's like the idol who posts these cryptic but beautiful things, known for being deep and ethereal. It's just a brilliant illustration of how the complexity inside is engineered for both internal management and successful external resonance.
Okay, so that mapping of the crew's structure is crystal clear. Yeah. Now let's pivot. We're moving from who they are to how they think. We're going to dissect the philosophies that drive performance, boundaries, and long-term consequences in this system.
And we have to start with Val, the tactician. Her central philosophy is called the climb. And Val's evolution here is absolutely key.
Right. She moved from being a lone climber, driven by just pure, raw ambition,
to a leader who is focused on integrated purpose.
That shift is huge. The summit is no longer the only thing that matters. The focus moves to the emotional intelligence needed for the journey, and, maybe most importantly, who you climb with.
Which forces her to prioritize relational wisdom, something her earlier, more ambitious self might have just seen as a distraction.
Exactly. And her core tenets are incredibly practical. The first one is mastery through missteps.
This completely reframes failure. Mistakes that aren't character flaws, they're not moral failings, they are purely data points.
So every slip, every time you hit a plateau, it's just raw material. It's used by the system for immediate refinement to build future strength.
And for you, listening, this means when a project gets rejected or a boundary you set gets violated, Val's response isn't to blame yourself, it's to get the crew together for triage. What data did we gain? How do we refine the process? It professionalizes setbacks.
The second tenet is focus is freedom. This one really hits home. It's about tackling the exhaustion of always striving for more.
It's about intentionally prioritizing a few significant climbs, whether that's an internal healing journey or a big career project, instead of spreading your energy so thin. The sources explicitly warn against chasing false peaks.
Distractions that feel like progress but aren't the main goal.
Exactly. Plateaus that just distract from the core mission.
But doesn't that create a risk, a commitment to that kind of hyper-focus? Doesn't that risk making the system rigid? If Val is only ever looking up at the summit, who's scouting for unexpected threats or opportunities from the side?
That's the beauty of the system's multiplicity. You're right, Val dictates the mountain, but it's Addie, the scout, whose job is peripheral vision and exploration. Val provides the unwavering discipline you need to go up.
While Addie provides the spontaneous creativity, the necessary distraction.
Precisely. Val's discipline is balanced by Mac's fluidity and Tommy's spontaneity. It's a check and balance system.
Okay, that makes sense. Her third tenet is peace through progress, and this one challenges the myth that you have to wait for everything to be calm to feel aligned.
For Val, stillness isn't stopping. It is perfect, committed alignment while climbing. Clarity and healing are found in the momentum, in the commitment itself. The discipline becomes the source of order.
And her ultimate message is so direct, it just cuts through all the sentimentality. She reframes discipline not as punishment, but as a commitment to your best self.
Life doesn't have to be easy, it has to be honest, and honesty requires that kind of disciplined consistency.
So moving from the climber to the one building the infrastructure, we get to Kenny, the quartermaster, the dishwasher. His philosophy is moral architecture.
Choices and consequences. He governs the entire system through ethical foresight.
And Kenny provides this really practical, almost mechanical reframing of karma. He calls it feedback, not fate.
It's not about some mystical cosmic punishment. It's purely consequential. Patterns reinforce outcomes. Habits solidify into identities. Every tiny micro decision you make compounds over time.
And it builds the macro environment of your life.
Exactly. So his first core tenet is this foundational quotient of moral architecture. Before any action, Kenny demands the system ask, what system am I reinforcing by doing this?
Am I building a system of avoidance, of procrastination?
Or a system of integrity and health? His instruction is so clear, make it something worthy.
Then the second tenet is ethical foresight. Kenny is always looking several moves ahead, way past the immediate gratification. He forces the system to ask, what ripple does this create?
What's the long-term cost of this action? This is that vital internal check against those short-term manager behaviors that solve today's crisis, but just create tomorrow's disaster.
Okay, but that level of foresight, it sounds like it could be paralyzing. How does the system handle the real world, which is just inherently chaotic? You can't always look several moves ahead. Doesn't that commitment to a perfect design lead to procrastination when things go off script?
That's a great question, and it's where his third tenet, accountability is design, provides the flexibility. Accountability isn't about guilt. It's about making sure the design works.
Right.
Kenny is driven by that idea that you don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. So if the system fails, if you fall short, you don't punish yourself. You redesign the system.
And he builds in a safeguard, the grace clause.
It's built right into the process. Forgiveness, self-compassion, they're part of the learning loop. Every error is a chance to learn and adjust. His goal is conscious iteration, not perfection. That way, ethical failure informs progress instead of stopping it.
Okay, so now we get to a sharp point of friction. If Val and Kenny are all about this disciplined structure, Liz, the morale officer, embodies something else entirely. Raw strategic power.
Her philosophy is eat or be eaten. And it views life as a game of perception and strategic consumption.
Liz forces the system to acknowledge a competitive reality. Her core insight is what she calls the natural law of predation.
Which is that competition for resources, for attention, for position, it's fundamental. Whether you consciously engage with it or not, she's the one reminding the system that the world often runs on power and perception, not necessarily on fairness.
And she defines success through the power ladder. This is a progression of mindsets. It starts at prey.
The people pleaser, always seeking external approval.
Then you move up to survivor, where you're setting defensive boundaries. Then predator, taking strategic initiative, actively seeking an advantage. And the final goal is apex predator.
Now, I have to ask, where's the line here between healthy self-advocacy and just pure ruthlessness? How does Liz's perspective not turn the whole internal crew into a toxic, backstabbing environment?
That's the critical distinction. The sources define the apex predator stage very specifically. It's about self-control and domain control, not tyranny over others. The goal is long-term strategic dominance. It's about owning the entire ecosystem, which means you have to ensure the health of the crew itself. Unchecked dominance is self-destructive. Liz pushes for strategic command, not just momentary consumption.
And that leads to her idea of strategy over sentiment. She demands this sharp awareness to see through empty flattery emotional traps. She grounds the system in a kind of ruthless efficiency, stopping it from wasting resources on drama or superficial things.
There's a quote in the sources that just perfectly captures her attitude. You can be the main course or the major DO dish of the day, but you will be on the menu either way, unless you own the restaurant.
Wow, that's a powerful declaration of autonomy. Take control of your domain or you risk being consumed by the demands of others.
And Liz's power is stabilized by Devon, the navigator. His philosophy of resilience and redemption is all about recovering from past destructive potential. If Liz is the power to consume, Devon is the discipline needed to channel that power ethically.
His whole identity is the redeemed strategist, the shadow walker. And crucially, he doesn't run from guilt, he studies it. He analyzes its roots, its triggers to prevent future harm, but without letting the emotion just consume him, he sees himself as earning his humanity back piece by piece.
His process is defined by redemption as discipline. It's not a one-time "I'm sorry." It is a lifelong commitment to change.
And this discipline shows up as iterative return, constantly learning, adjusting patterns, demonstrating change. His mantra is so blunt. I'm not here to be forgiven, I'm here to change.
And to do that, he embraces stoicism as a tool, not armor. It's not about being cold. It's a structured emotional discipline he needs to manage his history of volatility.
So stoicism lets him channel his feelings wisely. It ensures he responds based on his new principles, instead of just reacting impulsively based on past fears.
And this leads to his most critical integration point. He sees the past as raw material. It's not a ball and chain. You just own it, you integrate it, and you consciously choose who you're going to be next. You don't pretend that past self never existed.
And the central contradiction in his growth is that he traded rigid control for discipline. Control came from fear. Discipline now comes from self-trust and principle. He's still a powerful part of the crew, but his strategic purpose is now fully aligned with the long-term health of the whole system.
Okay, so with those strategic pillars firmly in place, let's shift gears. We're now looking at the philosophies that govern emotional honesty, relationship, and embracing the unscripted, fluid self. These are the parts of the crew dedicated to connection.
And we have to start with Mac, the pilot and bartender. He advocates for radical authenticity, what he calls the unfiltered self. Mac's whole journey is a kind of soft rebellion, moving from masking insecurity to just embracing his realness as the source of his confidence.
His first tenet is rejecting the highlight reel. This is a conscious, visible effort to be real about the messy parts of life, the stuttering, the emotional exhaustion, the awkward moments.
He's actively resisting the pressure of curated perfection that the digital world just relentlessly demands from us.
And this creates his soft rebellion. He chooses authenticity without being, unnecessarily abrasive about it.
It's described as wearing rollerblades in a world of escalators. I love that. A refusal to conform to these conventional, inefficient structures. But it's done with this playful, disarming spirit that actually invites people in.
His view on resilience is also a key takeaway. It's nuanced.
Yep.
It's about bouncing back without pretending that the fall didn't hurt.
Right. True strength isn't denying the struggle. It's integrating the pain, honestly, and, showing the scars. Mac's honesty, often hidden in his humor and sharp punchlines, is the necessary truth the system needs to maintain its perspective.
And his entire philosophy is geared toward one thing: connection through vulnerability. When Mac shows up authentically, he creates this atmosphere, this vibe, that's an invitation for other people to exhale and drop their own masks.
He's the internal vibe liberator. He's the one showing that the messy, mid-sentence self is always enough.
Next up, we have Tommy, the engineer and world builder. He sees uncertainty not as a threat, but as a creative playground.
His whole philosophy, embrace the uncertainty, transforms discomfort into this powerful creative engine.
And his tenets are all about reframing fear itself. The first is befriend the unknown. Discomfort is a compass, a sign you're growing, not a warning sign of danger.
Uncertainty is viewed as a strange gift. It's the master disruptor that forces the system off of its comfortable, repetitive paths and demands new creative solutions.
His second tenet is creative compost. This ensures that there is zero wasted effort.
So failures, awkward moments, unfinished ideas, they are not wasted resources. They are the raw material, the nutrients for future successes. The source material has this beautiful line, your worst ideas might become the soil your best ones grow in.
Love that. And third, he has a mini manifesto. These are the guiding beliefs for his creative process.
Curiosity is greater than certainty. Discomfort is a compass. Control is an illusion, but intention is power. He channels his creative energy, which is described as controlled chaos, like a storm that built a lighthouse, by using these structured tools. Gamification, metaphor engines, ritual. He's harnessing the wild flow.
Now shifting to relational integrity, we have Kelly, the healer and hostess. She champions the twin mirror. This is a focus on relational integrity, but directed inward first.
Emphasizing slow care and being soft but sturdy.
Her philosophy is built around the test. You have to live your life as if you are both your own twin and your own best friend.
And that forces this profound but gentle self-reflection. The questions are demanding but compassionate. Would I want to live with me, date me, trust me in my hardest moment? And the twin serves as this supportive witness, which prevents it from becoming harsh self-criticism.
And Kelly uses the authenticity compass to constantly check the system's root motivation. Is this choice I'm making fear-based, or is it value-based?
Am I doing this because I truly believe in it, or just because it's what's expected of me? This is what ensures the system's outward choices are always aligned with its internal values, preventing burnout or self-betrayal.
Her core commitment is compassionate integrity. She believes true strength isn't some sudden big reinvention. It's the quiet, sustained process of reclaiming and honoring who you already are.
She works to stop the system from shrinking itself to fit external expectations. She models this quiet, indwelling power of just tending to your own inner world.
And the practical tool that anchors all of this is the Mirror Talk journal prompt. What would my gentle and truthful twin tell me today?
Which encourages self-awareness with kindness. It moves you beyond judgment and into conscious, iterative self-care.
Finally, in this section, we look at Addie, the scout, the wild girl. Her identity transforms from this, scattershot sparkler to embodying joy with scars, wild with wisdom. She's the vital bridge back to the authentic, untamed life force.
And her key insight is redefining ignorance as bliss. For Addie, it's not about being naive. It is an active, conscious choice. A deliberate rebellion against the pressure to analyze every piece of your life until the joy is just gone.
It's permission to live messy, bold, and real.
And she practices planned spontaneity or grown-up whimsy, bringing the fireworks but still packing the marshmallows.
That's great. It's balancing freedom with awareness, ensuring that joy remains defiant and intentional, even in the face of inevitable sorrow.
And her healing happens through experience, not just analysis. Hikes, songs, firelight. She makes sure the system can hold space for profound joy and profound sorrow at the same time, without one canceling out the other.
She's the part that reminds you that you can laugh with tears in your eyes.
Addie's gift is absolutely essential. She stops life from becoming just a clinical checklist. She is that joyful, chaotic spark that confirms that your authentic, messy self is beautiful and inherently worthy of expression.
Okay, we've established the 8 core roles. Now we're looking at the 2 overarching pillars that stabilize and provide meaning for the entire crew. And then we're going to connect the whole system to some ancient architecture.
So we start with Bannock, the anchor, the captain. He models this really necessary shift in leadership. He moves from, I have to be strong for everyone,
to I can be strong with everyone.
It's a move from carrying a hidden burden to embodying grace and humility. His philosophy is leading under starlight.
And his leadership is defined by how subtle it is. Starlight is subtle guidance. True north for him isn't some loud, flashing beacon of authority. It's a quiet, consistent, inner knowing.
Leadership for Bannock is defined by service, unwavering loyalty, and deep, often solitary reflection.
And he addresses that fundamental anxiety of leadership head-on. Soft doesn't mean weak. He insists that vulnerability and transparency are signs of great strength, not weakness.
It takes immense strength to be honest about your limitations, and it builds trust far more effectively than trying to maintain this fragile facade of perfection.
And his primary function is nurturing mentorship. His role is to create space for the other subpersonalities to step up, support them in their roles, and then repeat that cycle of growth. He calls it this sacred almost.
The crew's trust in him is anchored in his consistent heart and his emotional courage.
His crisis response protocol is also crucial. First, immediately de-escalate emotionally and triage what's most urgent.
Then, after the danger has passed, you hold accountability gently, and the focus is always on recovery healing what the storm broke, not just surviving it.
And the other pillar is Tira, the sage and advisor. She models growth not as a ladder you climb, but as a slow bloom, and wisdom as a layered truth to tend.
Her philosophy is presented through the wisdom onion model, which is just such an elegant metaphor for layered internal growth.
So the model has 5 layers, starting from the outside and working our way in. Layer 1 is thoughtful action.
This means principled action, balancing logic and emotion, and intentional communication, prioritizing deep listening over constant speaking.
Layer 2 is discernment in relationship. Kira focuses on distinguishing discernment, which is a nuanced understanding of another person's motives.
From judgment, which is just categorization and separation, conflict for her is reframed as an opportunity for deeper connection and repair.
Layer 3, authentic expression. This is the commitment to staying true to your deep understanding, even when you don't get external validation for it.
Wisdom is described as much a feeling as it is a framework. It's anchored in that quiet, non-negotiable inner knowing.
Layer 4 introduces heart wisdom. This is all about tenderness, forgiveness, profound humility.
The sources use this powerful image. Ego is too heavy to carry inward. This layer is the emotional core, where wisdom is deeply felt and compassionate.
And the very center, layer 5, is center paradox and presence. This is the highest level of mastery.
It's the ability to sit in tension, paradox, and uncertainty without that immediate need to fix it or resolve it. It is deep acceptance, vulnerability that leads by example without dominating.
And Tira's analogy for you, the listener, is just a vital reminder. Wisdom is a lantern, not a sword. It doesn't fight, it illuminates. It sits patiently beside you until you're ready, and it unfolds slowly over a lifetime.
So this rich internal map then finds its macro counterpart in the ancient world with the grand mapping to the 10 Sephirot of Kabbalah's Tree of Life.
Right, and we're looking for deep pattern recognition here, aligning these archetypal psychological dynamics with this ancient spiritual blueprint.
The Tree of Life serves as this abstract model for human consciousness, and it's perfectly organized into 3 axes: the intellectual triad for idea, the ethical-emotional triad for the core, and the action-manifestation triad for output.
Which shows the inherent dynamic balance in your own system.
So let's start with the intellectual triad. This is all about idea and structure. The source energy, Keter the crown, aligns with Tira.
The quiet sage. That makes perfect sense. That high observing perspective, the transcendent will guiding the whole system.
Exactly. Then you have Chokmah, wisdom, the raw spark. This is the untamed flow, the first chaotic flash of insight.
And that has to be Tommy.
It has to be Tommy, the inventive, untamed genius, those sudden, powerful intuitions that just bypass linear thought.
And then Bina, understanding and structure. It takes that raw spark and applies order, turns inspiration into something concrete.
Which is Val, the architect. She provides the structure and accountability to Tommy's brilliant but wild ideas.
Okay, moving down to the ethical emotional triad, balance and core. We start with cheesed, which is kindness and generosity.
Pure emotional abundance, outflow. This is Addie, radiating warmth, light, untamed, and immediate compassionate energy.
And its necessary counterpoint is Javura. Discipline, boundaries, justice.
Restraint, a strict code. Power. This maps directly onto Devon, who embodies that self-mastery and discipline, protecting the system with firm, necessary boundaries.
And the integrator of this triad, the heart center, is Tiferet. Beauty, harmony, compassion.
Which is Kelly. She's focused on relational harmony, compassionate integrity. She's the emotional hearth for the whole system, balancing Addie's outflow and Devon's restraint.
Okay, finally, the action manifestation triad, how things get done. Netzach, which is victory, endurance, momentum.
Pure drive, social presence. This is Mac, embodying that adaptability and momentum, often through playful, successful external engagement.
Then Hod, glory, reflection, order.
Contemplation, self-control, detail. This aligns perfectly with Kenny, the quartermaster, focused on order and ensuring the inner integrity of the system is maintained during any action.
And the bridge connecting the inner and outer is Yesod, foundation, connection, channeling.
This is Bannock, the stabilizer, the anchor. He facilitates meaning, angers loyalty. He's the glue that maintains the deep internal bonds, providing that necessary foundation for action.
And it all culminates in Malchut, kingship, manifestation.
The physical world, tangible presence, worldly power. And this is Liz, embodying charisma, power, the tangible presence. She is the stage where all the other internal energies manifest themselves in the physical world.
So this grand mapping confirms it. Your subpersonalities aren't just random voices. They form an inner dynamic tree of life, a psycho-spiritual system built for dynamic balance.
And the core challenge isn't to demand a perfect unification into one single voice. It's to embrace the full potential of multiplicity, to make sure every part of this vibrant, interacting symphony is heard, integrated, and contributing. Okay, so we have this intricate internal ecosystem mapped out, but now we hit the inevitable conflict. The external world demands simplicity, and the inner world is fundamentally complex.
And that friction happens every single time you try to interface your inner richness with external demands.
This friction is rooted in our basic cognitive function. In a world of just infinite data, we default to categorization to manage the cognitive strain. We rely so heavily on what's called System 1 thinking.
The fast, intuitive, automatic thinking, heavily reliant on quick proxies and often riddled with biases.
And digital life, globalization, they just massively amplify this reliance. We're constantly pressured to use those cognitive shortcuts, just slapping labels on people, techie, artist, liberal, conservative, just to make them quickly legible.
We use these proxies to make interaction feel less overwhelming, but we sacrifice all the nuance for that immediate efficiency.
And this creates the nuanced dilemma. Society generally prizes coherence and consistency, the statue version of a self that never changes its mind.
But deep authenticity, the kind your 10-part system requires, is more like a flowing, shifting river.
Exactly. Striving for that internal nuance is inherently inefficient in external systems that demand you fit perfectly into a box on a form.
The takeaway, the source's stress here is so crucial. You do not owe the world easy legibility at the cost of your own truth.
If someone can only connect with a radically simplified, boxed-in version of you, that's not real connection. False clarity in your identity almost always leads to false intimacy in your relationships.
Which brings us to the necessary skill set for managing this friction, the architecture of the closet. The sources detail how every external interaction is this strategic dance of disclosure.
You're balancing Mac's drive for radical authenticity against Devon's need for careful social calibration and risk assessment.
And the framework categorizes potential disclosures into 6 layers of truth, defined by increasing risk and vulnerability. Layer 1 is surface public.
Your job, facts about you.
Layer 2 is opinion lifestyle. Music taste, general preferences. Both of these are universally safe for casual disclosure.
But Layer 3 escalates significantly to ideological cultural. Deep political or religious stances. Sharing this risks friction, conflict, especially in professional or diverse settings.
And this is where Kenny's ethical foresight is so vital. Is sharing this necessary right now, or is it just reinforcing a system of unnecessary external conflict?
Then Layer 4 is aspiration's inner creative world. Your ambitions, your dreams. The risk here isn't conflict, it's vulnerability.
Right. Sharing a dream before it's materialized risks having it dismissed, which can be profoundly discouraging to the creative parts of the system, like Tommy.
Then you have Layers 5 and 6, which carry the highest stakes. These often involve the burdens carried by the exiles. Layer 5 is inner conflict trauma, deep shame, unmet needs.
And Layer 6 is core identity, sexual orientation, gender identity, core beliefs.
Devon's analysis of these high layers is stark. Disclosure at Layers 5 and 6 requires preparation and a guaranteed safe environment. Because a hostile reception here can feel deeply identity-shattering. It's existential. It threatens the very foundations that Bannock is trying to protect.
So how do you manage this strategic dance every day? The sources recommend 2 key tools that blend authenticity with caution. The first is using boundary scripts.
Boundary scripts are pre-planned phrases that are truthful, minimal, and firm. They are designed to maintain your privacy politely but clearly. They let the system protect layers 4 through 6 without having to resort to deception, which upholds Kenny's integrity standards.
So for instance, if someone pressures you for an opinion on a controversial topic, instead of making something up, you might use a neutral phrase like, I tend to keep my evolving thoughts on that topic internal for now.
Or when declining a request that encroaches on your time, I appreciate the ask, but I keep my personal time strictly protected.
And the second tool is creative bridges. This is where parts like Tommy and Mac really excel.
You use outlets like art, humor, poetry, or writing under a pen name or an avatar to externalize that inner tension and disclose layer 4 or 5 conflicts without attaching your real-world standing or your professional face to it.
You can put the conflict onto the page, onto the canvas, allowing Kelly's healing work to happen and Mac's authenticity to express itself, but without exposing Bannock, the captain, to unnecessary external risk.
The moral declaration here is clear. You have the autonomy to control what you share, when, and how. You have to prioritize and share at the speed of safety.
But despite all this rigorous internal mapping, the sources admit that external connection is still the hardest task, and it often results in this painful relationships feedback loop.
The loop is defined by this specific repeating pattern. The internal system craves the deep, nuanced connection it experiences internally, so it puts itself out there externally.
But the expectations for that level of depth and presence are usually unmet, often because of digital superficiality or people just not being fully present.
And that unmet expectation leads to disappointment. It reinforces the sense that you're fundamentally misunderstood. The system then retreats back into the safe, familiar internal world, back to the company of the crew, which is always there, always available.
The digital age just compounds this. It gives us the illusion of connection while actually feeling distance.
And the analysis provides a final point of grounded realism. While the inner system is a powerhouse for meaning, expression, and healing, it can't make you immune to the messiness of real life, to the inherent disappointments of external humanity.
So the ultimate goal is to leverage that internal harmony, driven by Bannock and Kelly, to build unwavering internal self-worth, and to recognize that no system can fully solve the challenges of genuine external human connection. #outro.
This has been a monumental synthesis. We've explored the 10 internal parts, their dynamic relationships, and their competing but complementary philosophies, from Liz's strategic power to Tira's layered wisdom.
And then we elevated that entire framework by showing how it aligns perfectly with the ancient structure of the 10 Sephirot, proving that your subpersonalities are not just these random voices. They are a sophisticated, dynamic inner ecosystem built for healing, high-level expression, and profound meaning-making.
And the final synthesis is that the challenge isn't demanding a single unified voice. It's embracing the power of multiplicity, maintaining a vibrant, dynamic symphony that honors every single internal role. You've built a powerful map to navigate this inherent complexity.
And that leads us to this provocative closing thought. We saw how K-pop's highly crafted fantasy, its calculated blend of archetypes built for discipline and belonging, can offer real meaning and connection to millions externally. What does that suggest about the equally idealized, cohesive narratives we choose or intentionally create in our own internal lives to find meaning? How might we honor our own vast complexity while still offering an edited, intentional, and truthful self that others can safely connect with? Something to think about long after this deep dive concludes.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.